Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order for our Committee of the Whole for November the 11th, 2025. And I will start with a territorial acknowledgement for this area. We acknowledge that the land on which our school and district buildings are situated is in the traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin people. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples on the land on which we gather here today. I also want to recognize that this is indeed Remembrance Day. I'm sure everybody had an opportunity to participate in some type of event. And I just wanted to identify and remind ourselves that we will remember and be grateful for the brave men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. I also came across a quote from the President of the Royal Canadian Legion that I thought was quite appropriate. Remembrance reminds us that our nation has been through challenging times, whether at war or during peace support operations. Canada's veterans and fallen heroes alike can take comfort in our remembrance. And I do want to acknowledge that I believe in every school in the district, as well as the administration building, were involved in some type of acknowledgement of the day, and many were student-led as well. And as well, our director and the chair did lay a wreath, I believe, at the cenotaph in Pembrokeshire to certainly acknowledge that as much as we can. So thank you for that. Okay, going to go on to the attendance. I can just get my, there we go. So Chair Boland.
Present.
Vice Chair Humphreys is here. Trustee Doherty.
Here.
Thank you, Kim. Trustee Clark sends his regrets. Trustee Gannett.
Here.
Trustee Kaiser.
Here.
Trustee Primo is not here. She's on her way. Thank you very much. Trustee Rajamani sends her regrets. Student Trustee Doherty also sent her regrets. And Student Trustee Dick, is she on with us yet? I know she's planning to be on with us virtually, so perhaps she's been a bit delayed. And for staff, Director Nemi, here. Superintendent Barnes, here. Superintendent Poirier, here. Superintendent Smith, here. Superintendent Kronwald,
here.
And Superintendent Nickel,
here.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. All right, approval of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you today. Is there anything else that we need to add to the agenda?
Just that committees, the selection of committees that is coming up. I'll just talk about that briefly.
Okay, great. We'll just put that on then just before the adjournment, if that's okay.
Yes.
Trustee Wong, all right, we'll do that. Is there anything else to add to our agenda today? Welcome, Trustee Preba. If not, I'll need an approval. Could I have some motion to approve the agenda, please? Trustee Gannett, thank you. And seconder, Trustee Boland, thank you very much. Chair Boland, sorry. All those in favor of the approval on the agenda? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So we have a number of reports from the staff today to get us caught up on all the great things that are happening in our board. So we'll start off with the Math Achievement Action Plan, and I'll turn it over to Superintendent Kronwald to lead us in that, if you would, please.
Need a minute? No, I think we're good. I'd like to introduce Marcia Knockleby, our K-12 math principal of math. So she oversees our Math Achievement Action Plan for the district. And the three key areas that the action plan is based on is ensuring fidelity of the curriculum implementation, engaging educators in ongoing professional learning to strengthen math and content knowledge of teaching, and last one, knowing our math learner by making task intervention and supports relevant and responsive.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here with you today. Thank you. I work with a very talented team and talented educators across our school board. And as a result of specialized funding from the ministry, that is a dedicated numeracy team, which was established in August of 2024. And it's composed of myself and 3 itinerant numeracy facilitators. We have 2 elementary facilitators and 1 secondary facilitator. And the team really focuses on, and this is a ministry focused, a job embedded support to 13 priority schools across the county that were identified by the ministry based on 2021, 2022 EQAO results. And I'm really proud to say that during the 2024-2025 school year, facilitators collaborated with school teams, and they really worked with over 30 educators, that's priority educators, priority classroom teachers, and more educators throughout the county, but also 595 students in grade 3, 6, and 9 priority classes, but that doesn't capture the full extent of the work. I'd also just like to note in advance of this report that we were expecting results, EQAO results, and we have not received them yet. And it's what we like to do is layer the data, and when we receive those, we will let you know. But really wanted to review the key learnings from the implementation of the Math Achievement Action Plan. And if I refer to the MAP, I will try not to use those acronyms, but that's what I'm referring to, because we're used to using those in our work. But I'd really like to draw your attention to some of those key learnings. And what really emerged from the data was that job embedded professional learning was one of our most impactful strategies because it was responsive, it was relevant, and sustained. And that collaboration between the numeracy team and classroom teachers involved a variety of actions, including modeling, co-planning, co-teaching, and small group instruction with students. It also supported MAP educators in incorporating and refining impactful learning routines and practices. And in a survey of educators at the end of the year, we found that 97% of educators who were in priority classrooms who responded to our survey reported an increase in confidence in their ability to use high impact instructional practices in their math classrooms. We also really, the work highlighted the critical importance of cross-departmental collaboration. We're a small team, and we recognize that no single department or team possesses all the knowledge or expertise necessary to support student success and well-being. But by intentionally integrating, and we continue to do this, expertise from different departments, and also we could go on to talk about community partners, from curriculum to specialized services. We break down those instructional silos, and we really help to support capacity building. And that allows us to really provide responsive supports to meet the unique needs of our learners. And we really saw growth in our, for example, the collaboration between the numeracy team and specialized services and our special education resource teachers as vital, because it supported assessment for learning and really getting to know the learner, which is a key component of the MAP. And it allowed them to provide some precise interventions to promote fact fluency and also to get to know that learner. And they also reported increased confidence in identifying instructional starting points and intervention strategies. And that partnership continues. Tomorrow I'll be presenting to high school certs and also elementary certs, but really we're looking to support capacity and learning to help improve achievement for all students. We also found it can be challenging to scale the work because we focus on priority schools, but we know that strategic initiatives can be impactful, and one of those, the most impactful, and where we will continue to put energy this year, is into Mathtastic Monday. It was in response to educators' feedback. We wanted to remove barriers to accessing curriculum-aligned EQAO-style math problems, and it also supported digital assessment familiarity and the use of digital tools. And the feedback from educators is that it supported student engagement and also supported that deliberate practice, and also some good conversations between the math facilitators, the numeracy facilitators, and the classroom teachers, which may, led to some further learning and some increase digital tool integration. And we know that sustained professional learning facilitates the support of high impact instructional practices and assessment practices, such as building thinking classrooms and the integration of digital tools. And we, teachers and educators, staff that we're working with want multiple opportunities to work with new practices and to be supported. So we really, instead of having, one PD session, focusing our efforts on really strategic PD to enhance educator capacity and confidence. At this time, I'd like to highlight a few of the next steps as we move forward with the 2025-2026 Math Achievement Action Plan. At the system level, we will continue to analyze and respond to system level data, including EQAO results. And we also really want to look at how we're connecting with educators and community members. And we are going to update and relaunch the RCDSB math website, the website for both parents and caregivers and also for staff based on our feedback. And of course, we'll continue to prioritize that job-embedded learning and align professional development opportunities as well, such as the Math AQ subsidy, and really focusing on strengthening our collaboration with other departments and outreach opportunities that foster curiosity in math. I'm not sure if anybody saw the wonderful reel that Jay put together with our the Coding to Learn reel that appeared on Friday, but a partnership with Taking It Global. And this year, they've supported some coding in grade 9 and also coding in our intermediate classes, and really helping students to see connections between math and the world around them, and just to foster that curiosity and participation and confidence in math. At the school level, we really want to develop guidance and resources to mathify our learning spaces and extend opportunities like Mathtastic Monday that include differentiated tasks. And people have asked us to expand that to include multiple grade levels, which we think is scalable and also impactful. And we want to continue to work with priority schools to really collaboratively look at different at student data to support success and implement those high impact instructional practices. A big piece, I know that when I sat here last year, we spoke about the importance of caregiver and parent engagement. And we want to continue to expand those outreach opportunities, such as EQAO information nights for parents, and share resources on EDSB. And what we did this year is we had a digital math tool resource survey for parents, and we had over 100 parents respond to the survey. And we want to be responsive to that information. We found, for example, that they really liked having their information shared over EDSB, and that they maybe weren't aware of all the resources that were available to parents. So again, being responsive to the data and the conversations that we're having. And of course, we meet with the ministry regularly, and to continue to gather evidence from sources like student confidence and attitudinal data, and report card grades and attendance, as well as our locally developed numeracy snapshot as we move forward.
Martha, any questions?
Okay, questions, comments? Yes, Trustee Kaiser.
Do you specifically, like, what digital tools and resources could you give me just some examples of?
Sure. So digital tools and resources are two different categories. So digital math tools are tools that teachers and students would use in their classroom to support math learning or purposeful practice. So for example, we have a Knowledge Hook that is widely available to students from K to 10. And we could have older grades adopt that as well, where it's curriculum aligned resources, where either there's practice questions. And a Knowledge Hub, for example, it's an assessment for learning platform. So, prior to the learning, you can kind of get a snapshot of where the learner is. And then it also can provide some responsive interventions to the teacher to help them with next steps. We also have Mathletics, which is kind of a tool that supports practice. in mathematics, but can also be used for that assessment for learning. And there's some gamification of math. And then we have a digital resource. So a digital resource isn't interactive in the same sense that those other pieces are, but they're primarily for teachers and for parents. So for teachers, we have Math Up, which is a resource that was supported in conjunction with Marion Small, and it's curriculum aligned. So it gives the teachers resources to support curriculum implementation, from everything to assessment for learning, to helping with conceptual understanding, some games, items that they may be able to send home to parents, like the Sum It Up piece, but it's only teachers who are accessing that. And then we have another kind of suite of resources that the province has provided, like TVO Learn and TVO Empower. And there's also a tutoring service that is there. So it's a variety of resource, and it really depends on who's using the resource. Resources are for parents and teachers and caregivers, and then the digital tools, even though the teacher is using them to gather data, they're student facing, where those others aren't.
Are these online? Is that?
Yes.
That's the.
They're all online. Yes, they're all online. Again, what we found is parents and caregivers that responded to the survey weren't aware of all of the resources that were there. So that's a definite next step for us.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yep, sorry, go ahead, Leah.
How did you decide on the priority classrooms?
Well, the priority classrooms, that's a great question. The priority classrooms, we have priority grades. So the ministry provided the priority schools and then the priority grades at those schools. So those were all decided by the ministry. So for example, at a school, it's not going to be 3 priority grades. They would say at school A, the priority grade is grade 3. So that is designated by the ministry. And then we work with the principals and our central team to connect with the teachers who are working in those priority grades. And we meet with them, our coaches meet with them, and we look at data together. There's job embedded learning together, and the coaches are actually working in those classrooms. So they're ministry designated. And teachers in those classrooms change, as you know. We do have some that are the same teachers as we had last year, but there's a large percentage who are new to the map, even though the grade remains the same, because teaching assignments may have changed. Yeah, so ministry provides us with that information, and we follow up.
Just one more question. So what did the digital math tool and resource survey, like what did it look like? What were you asking? And then how many participants did you have fill that out?
The math survey was a Google form that was online. It was posted to our EDSB account. And we asked about their familiarity with resources and what resources they used. To pull it up. Sometimes I just have to slow down. But it was rather short. Give me a second and I'll tell you. Thanks for being so patient. We asked, does your child have access to any of the following at home? Because a laptop or desktop, a tablet, a smartphone, and internet connection, or none of the above. We wanted to know about access because, you know, as we were saying, that these are all online and students not only have to have the internet, but a tool to access. I apologize. It was actually, we had 129 responses. We asked them if they were aware of the digital tools and resources that were available to students to support learning at home, and we gave some examples, and it was just a 3-point scale. And we asked them, based on your child's experience and feedback, how satisfied are you with the digital tools and math resources provided? And that was a Likert scale, 5-point, but we also put we also added a 6th point. And that was, we haven't had the opportunity to use them, or we haven't used them. And that's what we found, that most people Most people responded, the majority, that they hadn't had the opportunity to use that. And over 90% of people said that they wanted to access information about digital math tools and resources to support learning to have those shared via EDSB, because we were thinking about newsletters, websites, online webinars, virtual workshops, in-person workshops. So that was interesting, some key learning for us, and just really the start of that learning.
Just to follow up, so you said you asked, if they had access to like the internet or had tools to access it. So did you have any that said that they couldn't?
A very small percentage said that they didn't, and I just have to go to the other view to see that.
Do we have like help for those that like couldn't? Do we have stuff that they could bring home or somehow connect to the internet?
Mm-hmm. Now, the interesting thing is I did make this survey anonymous. So I don't have particular names, but that's a good question to see. If people aren't able to access, maybe we need to dig further into that, but that to ensure that people can access those resources, and we're able to identify barriers to access, because that's really important too, is identifying and mitigating and removing barriers for students, community members, and parents and caregivers.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thanks.
Good questions or comments? I'll go ahead, Jody.
I had one basic question and then a more substantive question. One is, you indicated that there were digital resources on EDSB, and did you say they're available for all parents?
So
Sorry, I might have.
I may have misspoken. I'm a little nervous. So what we did was we posted this survey on EDSB, and then the majority of survey respondents, and we know that there's still a small percentage of RCDSB families and caregivers, said that they would like that information posted to EDSB when we gave other options like newsletters, for example, or the website. But I think for me that we would kind of cross post, and we have the ability to do that. Yeah.
And so my second question is more just about the way math is being taught, because I think I understand where the interventions are happening. But a question I often get asked by parents and things like that is, are we moving back to the old math anytime soon, or things like that? So I was just wondering, and I don't think I heard anything about it in your presentation, about where math is going. So
That's a really good
Are we
question and a really big, well, I think first of all, math is knowing your learners. So there is an emphasis on strong foundations. For example, like fact fluency. It's not just knowing your facts, for example, but having strategies so you can use them with larger numbers. Like many of us will do that, and how you use that to work with larger numbers. So there's still an emphasis on foundational strong foundations for students. And I would say that in our priority buildings and other buildings, like in the work that we're doing with some certs, that is definitely a piece of it. You want strong foundations, and really then you want students to be able to apply that learning as well. But there is a focus on strong foundational pieces for students, so that the curriculum is quite rigorous, so that they're able to access the curriculum and meet those expectations.
yeah, I guess I just like we've seen a shift, of course, from like doing long division and carrying the ones, and so I was just wondering where the root of the math curriculum is. Are we moving back toward the old one, or are we staying in the new area? And if so, just where is the science behind that? Because I'm just hearing a lot of frustration regarding math and the new way of doing math.
So perhaps I'll respond. The curriculum that we have to follow has a balance. So there's a balance of what Principal Knockleby is describing. There's a balance of learning the basic facts, learning addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, all those basic things. And then there's a focus on those higher order thinking skills, which is problem solving, being able to think through, different types of scenarios. There's things like spatial reasoning, proportional reasoning. Those are all evidence-based, like everything in the curriculum is evidence-based.
Okay.
I would say from my perspective, having taught math and science and been around for a while, I don't think we're going back to long division.
Okay.
But I think that this, in the last few years, we have seen a re-emphasis on what the ministry would call core and foundational skills. So in the student achievement plan, they're intentionally using that language to say, yes, we need to prepare students for, real world applications. There's a huge emphasis on coding, financial literacy, which was a big ask of the public, right? And there's been, I would say, a re-emphasis on core and foundational skills, which is what Principal Knockaby is describing as fat fluency. Are we going back to long division? Probably not. But are we, do we have a balance of basic skills and problem solving? Yes.
And what I'm hearing when you say our curriculum that we have to follow, so like the curriculum is dictated.
Very
Is that,
detailed.
okay.
Yeah, I would say math is probably one of the most detailed curriculum documents out there. Some of our other documents are a little more higher level. Math is, I would say, from my perspective, very prescribed. Okay. Yeah. Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, just the section parent and caregiver engagement. Where you say here, expand outreach opportunities for parents and caregivers. I don't have a pulse on this like you do. Are the opportunity, the parents and the caregivers, do you find the ones reaching out to you are more, and I'm just generally speaking, more of the proactive type parent? They're trying to engage, like I'm trying to help my son or my daughter, or is it complete cross section? Are you picking up new people? I'm like, or are they just, if I'm a parent and I've got a struggling son or daughter in math, I would really love this. I would take advantage of it. But is it the proactive parent that you find that you're reaching and they're reaching back? That's fantastic. But, or is it others that you've never reached before? Or do you do that in another way?
Well, that's a really good question. I think that parents are generally reaching out to their child's teacher first. Like I'm not getting a lot of, I've had, spoken with people from parent councils and what have you, and administrators and teachers. But in terms of, I received some questions from parents, but what I'm understanding in my conversations when I go into a building is that parents are reaching out directly to their teacher first. And then having those conversations with the teacher. And it's a range of parents that are reaching out that do that. And the schools are quite responsive, like even outside of the Math Achievement Action Plan, opportunities for tutoring. So usually it's reaching out to the teacher first. They may reach out to a principal as well. But to be quite frank, unless I'm asking individuals for their feedback, and that's something that I want to do. That is an area of it's a next step or an area of need, that they're not having those individual conversations with me. That may change though when we launch the new website, and that there's some interactive pieces for that. And I do think that parents do have questions about the curriculum, and we're a resource that they can access, or when their students may be experiencing challenges, or they may need some enrichment. Enrichment opportunities are also an area that we want to provide. We also consult, maybe they reach out to other departments and they consult with us. So long answer to a very short question is they're usually reaching out to the classroom teacher, and we want to support that in any way that we can. Yeah.
And by the way, good presentation. But lastly, EQAO information nights.
Yes.
Typically, how do they go?
Well, typically what's happening is, so we have a new EQAO, we have new ministry partners in math, and we also have new EQAO partners. So we have like a regional representative that is fantastic to help us with questions or to dig into the data. But EQAO, their staff hosts the nights. And then what we're doing is we're sharing those opportunities with parents. because they really are the experts in the EQAO assessment, and they are running. So we're looking for other partners like EQAO has been a longstanding partner, and sharing those opportunities. So parents can join a webinar, for example, and EQAO has those running quite frequently. Or if there are any other opportunities, we need to proactively look for those and share. Can I, is it appropriate to just kind of go back to Trustee Primo's question as well? I do think I talked about parent engagement and sharing, and we talked about resources too, but there's some good, we often get questions about the curriculum, and they do have a guide for parents, for example, and that's something that I hadn't shared in the past, but I think that's, a next step for us too, is sharing those, and not just sharing, but maybe having some conversations or some back and forth about that and opportunities, because there are some key resources that have already been developed that are parent friendly and can speak to that. So supporting the sharing of those and conversations around those as they come up.
Excellent, Chair. Yes, of course. So just to clarify, just so that there's no misunderstanding leaving here. So long division is actually, there is language in the curriculum that would support showing a student how to do long division, but it's been greatly de-emphasized compared to maybe when some of us were in school. So it's like cursive. There's a perception that cursive is not in the curriculum. There's actually language in the curriculum that allows for cursive writing. Same as long division. There's language in there that allows for it. It's been really de-emphasized compared to what the ministry has emphasized recently in that. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's not that the ministry banned long division or cursive from school. It is in the curriculum, but it's just really been de-emphasized over the last number of years. Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. I think just recognizing time, I think we will move on to our next agenda item. Thank you very much, Principal Muckleby. That's an excellent overview of where we're at, and we'll look forward to the EQAO results, hopefully sometime in the next few months. And we've certainly putting a lot of resources into math, supporting students with math. So let's hope it shows up for us as well. So thank you for all your work on that and your team as well.
Thank you for the opportunity to join you today.
Okay.
Just get the,
Sure, yeah, go ahead, Scott. Thank you very much.
Curriculum.
The great start. Yeah. Oh, great, thank you. Just wait for Superintendent Nichols to bring back a couple of staff persons. So our next agenda item is on international education report. And look forward to hearing all the great things that happened over the last year on international education. So we'll just wait till Swilakowski joins us on this one. Great. Let you get set up there.
Pleasure and privilege of working with Sharon McCafferty, Executive Assistant, and Christopher Koski, Principal of Student Success and Innovation. And the purpose of this report is to inform the board of the different international education programs that exist in the RCDSB. In terms of the background, which is found right underneath, you'll see that there's 4 key points that we identify in terms of benefits. I would suggest to sum it up that we all aspire for our students to be lifelong learners. And these are opportunities that help our students to gain perspective, enhance curiosity, and even in terms of curiosity, how they see the world and how they make sense of the world within it. I'm going to turn it over to Krista here, just in terms of the background, just to give a brief remark about each of the different programs.
So yes, thank you. We have 4 programs that we are involved and tied to. One would be a partnership with Muskoka Language International and Yes Canada, which was formed in 2018 to recruit international students to attend our CDSB schools. And the goal of that is to immerse themselves academically and culturally in the host country school system and communities. The second one is a partnership, a newer partnership since 2023 with the Académie Clermont-Ferrand in South Central France, which is a 5-week reciprocal exchange to allow our students to enhance their French language proficiency and cultural understanding. We also have partnership with the Rotary Club. So Rotary International connects with local Rotary clubs. And in this case, one in Deep River with Mackenzie Community School. And there is a space for one sponsored student per year in that exchange program. And then we also have a partnership with EF Tours Canada, which helps facilitate short-term student exchanges, not exchanges, student curriculum centered visits that are generally over the March break.
And then in the next section, just in terms of the status for the 24-25 school year, what you'll see there is obviously a brief synopsis of each of the different programs and what occurred last year for that. Chrissy, do you want to just mention in terms of the Clermont-Ferrand?
Sure. So currently we have 2 visitors from France visiting Renfrew County District School Board. They arrived late Sunday and have visited some other boards today and yesterday. So tomorrow through Friday, they'll be visiting 5 of our secondary sites, touring the school, meeting staff, also meeting students potentially that are interested in the exchange for 2026. So the 5 schools, why it's 5 schools is we have students from 5 different schools in Renfrew County that are interested in being part of the exchange in 2026. We have a wonderful working partnership with the Academy. And they're always willing to work with us and go back and forth to improve the experience for our students. So that's been a very rewarding work with them, with Sharon and myself.
In terms of the impact, I just wanted to draw your attention to a few of the quotes. So these are impact statements from parents and students and for the EF Tours staff member as well. With respect to the French exchange, in terms of the parent, a few key parts from that. The parent speaks about the growth, and in terms of the growth, that sense of independence that came from that experience. One remark as I reviewed these reflections in terms of the students' impact, the students spoke about the airport, and to me that almost equated to me like the student transitioning to high school and being concerned about their locker, where the parent may be wondering about other things, but for the student it was about how do I navigate this airport. But at the end of the day, though, it was that sense of independence in a safe environment, and having Sharon and Krista here, they have been paramount to make sure that it has been a safe experience for the students, to make sure that there's a sense of readiness, and we'll speak about that afterwards as well. The other part too that I just wanted to share in terms of the EF Tours, and again, the student remark, but again, this could have happened in any of these programs. But where he says the trip showed me that there's more to life than the small town of Renfrew. Again, it's speaking about that perspective that happens by being engaged within it. And then for the staff component as well, a lot of work involved, obviously, whether we're talking about Sharon or Krista or a staff member involved in a tour, but literally being able to see visible growth within the student while they're on the tour, as they mentioned, makes it all worth it. Moving on to the next steps, Sharon, would you mind just speaking about the increase in host family?
Yes, one of the limiting factors for us bringing in students through Yes Canada is the availability of suitable host families in the area. And they're very rigorously vetted, of course, if they're hosting a student, but maintaining a big enough network. We have more students that want to come on these experiences than we have host families available to take them in. So Yes Canada are forever reaching out to us to support them in advertising the opportunity to host students and to try and encourage our community to advertise that within our school community and our neighbouring community. so that they can recruit suitable families and then maintain that and have that support in place to maintain that network.
And just in terms of the second point there under the next steps, that idea of reviewing and responding, I think just to give an example of that with the Clermont-Ferrand. So prior to last school year, the model that existed for Clermont-Ferrand was to have the existing grade 10s during the second semester, where Clermont-Ferrand would come and they would stay with us. And then the following school year, those now grade 11 students would then travel to France. And so that was the model, but recognizing as well that there's a little bit of a disconnect that can happen. In addition to that, now all of a sudden we have grade 10 students, but now grade 11 students thinking about courses, thinking about post-secondary pathways. It can be a bit more problematic to do it with that model. So to respond to that, we now have it as mentioned in the current status where it's all happening during the second semester. And it's much easier for the students and the schools to plan according to that. The other thing that I would suggest too is that in terms of, I guess we'll say, to promote and to maybe the other word would be to recruit, that currently we have a grade 9 family night, if you will. It's an invitational Google Meet where grade 9's family, and they come in January for that. But then we have a grade 10 meeting that we just finished up at the end of September as well. Again, just to provide parents the information. But I would suggest that the key highlight for that in terms of building capacity was actually having one of our previous students that had the Clermont-Ferrand experience be able to come to the Google Meet and to attest to what a great experience it was for that. That was certainly a huge highlight. And as a next step for us, we're now going to be thinking about, okay, so grade 9's in January, grade 10's in the fall. What about the grade 8's? And to promote that. But I guess it also goes back to another key impact as well from the Clermont-Ferrand in this case was just their ability to see meaning in the education. In this case, it was wanting to and needing to speak French. And so by promoting, in this case, one of our pathways, which is of course in French, and promoting that in grade 8. So again, kids at an earlier age can see the connection between what they're doing in school and what happens in outside of the school walls as well. Now I'm just turning to Sharon and Krista. Did we miss anything? Okay. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, any questions? I mean, this report was to look back, right, over the last year and
That's
really
correct.
think about
Yeah.
what we accomplished, but then also looking forward a little bit to what's around the bend. Leo.
A couple of questions. So you said you had 40 students from Yes Canada. Not that I want you to name all the countries they were from, but just some of the, countries that we had exchanges with.
Yeah, last year we had, gosh, I'm trying to remember them all myself. I've got this year's sitting up here, but last year we had,
Here's where they're coming from.
I think last year was our first student from China.
Germany, Japan,
Yeah,
Italy,
we-
Australia.
we've lots on short term from Australia and New Zealand because that ties in very well with we're in school when they're on their summer vacation, so they get that experience without having to miss any of their school. So, and the France, we get a lot of short term from France, but long term tends to be Japan, Germany. We had a student from Denmark last year. So we've pretty much had them from every,
A lot. Different.
Many continents.
I think the only continent maybe is Africa that we haven't
Okay.
so far.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And the other question is, so just for the Rotary exchange student in Mackenzie, so where did they go and then where did the person come from to go to Mackenzie?
So last year, so the Rotary Exchange is quite unique in that the ministry allows the Rotary Exchange to take place not necessarily a one-on-one. And so as long as across Ontario in general, across a number of years, the reciprocity is the same. And so we have enough Ontario students going to other countries in the world. So it also doesn't necessarily have to be the same country, like for like exchange. So the year before last, we had a student in Mackenzie from Taiwan. Last year, we had a student from Mackenzie in Taiwan. And we had a student go to Germany. And the previous year, the student from Mackenzie also, there was another student went to Germany. This year, we don't have an outgoing student from Mackenzie, but we do have a student here from Denmark.
we have like an exit interview with them to ask them like how they liked it, what they thought of the area.
We
Thank you for
do,
that.
yeah, we do ask the schools to have with all of our international students to have, you know, a going away sort of event, if that's possible. I don't have any,
But that's a great question in terms of how do we capture that? Like, so even though there's an interact, there's a closure.
Right, well, it's, did you just see snow for the first time? I don't know, like, did you enjoy like your time here?
Mhm.
Yeah, what were the highlights? What would you recommend? Like, if you were to write a little synopsis of, why you should come to Deep River, what would it be?
Mhm.
Right, just when I
Great
can,
idea.
them, yeah. Right, thanks.
Judy?
Back in 2019 and coming into 2020, I had an exchange student, so before I had my daughter. And it was a really great experience. Some of the issues I had was a feeling of a lack of support. Of course, I didn't have any student of my own going. I was just accepting one in. And so I really echo Trustee Boland's comments that an exit interview might also be helpful for the families. Particularly, I didn't have an interest in doing it. I just thought I'd help a kid out, and it was great I've got a great friend now, I guess, in Australia. However, it was through the YES program, and there were a lot of real big gaps in hosting. And I think if we want to bring more people into our community, we need to have families who are supported and who are ready to go, and also who like the schools can communicate with to recruit more families, because it was overall a great experience. Now, it also ended up ending in the pandemic and a lockdown with me driving pregnant to the Montreal airport to bring her back. But all that said, there were some really good positives. And I think that looking at the families and the hosts might be a good avenue to explore as well.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Questions or comments from over here? Okay. Looks like a great programs that we've had great opportunities for students to go and to come. So hopefully we'll continue with that over the next year, and we'll look forward to another report coming our way. So thank you for your time. Thank you. Excellent. Thanks very much.
Yes. Yeah. Message me. 9. Yeah.
Okay. Move over. I guess, Superintendent, Nicole, you're on the hot seat again, right?
Both are both.
There you go. Just had to change chairs, so, thank you. Our next, report is on environmental education updates, so we'll look forward to hearing what's happening in the district around that topic as well.
Thank you, Chair.
So over to you.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to provide you with information about environmental education during the 24-25 school year and beyond. And it's district-wide in terms of, and you'll see from the background, which I know Christopher Crosby will get into, but in terms of the environmental committee, and even though it's a district committee, it's also a school committee too, that and having school representation on the committee from each school allows for that engagement, but it's also a year-round committee too, not just focusing on moving towards an Earth Day, but what does environmental education look like year-round? And we also want to highlight for you the addition of the outdoor learning spaces, which is an exciting part of the environmental education.
So what we'll outline today in the report will highlight mostly the work of the Environmental Committee, which was formed last school year, the 2024-2025 school year. And the central priority of the committee is to promote environmental responsibility with an emphasis on sustainable practices and the mindful use of resources to support long-term ecological well-being across the system. So that is our goal for our work, and just to highlight where we're at right now and where we've come from. So we're really promoting school engagement with Eco Schools Canada. It's a wonderful platform with lots of great resources for schools, so people don't have to create things on their own. There's actually probably way too much in there. There's enough, there's lots and lots of different resources in there. So when we started our work, we had 3 schools that were registered with Eco Schools. And last year at the end of the school year, we had 11. And this year we have 20 of our schools that are registered with Eco Schools. So that's a nice increase to see. And within the platform, some of the activities that they have recorded towards, their Eco School status would be community cleanup, good on one side paper, pollinator gardens are some of the most popular activities that schools have been involved in. And in June, we were very pleased to see that we had 3 schools receive certification through Eco Schools. So Rockwood receiving a bronze certification, Eganville District Public School a gold, and Killaloe Public School a platinum award. And you can see there too in the next bit of information that there was over 1,000 trees planted and over 1,100 hours of outdoor learning that took place that were recorded in Eco Schools. There could have been more, but that's what was recorded in the platform. Also to highlight our continued partnership with Shaw Woods. So our current agreement with Shaw Woods allocates funding for up to 750 individual student visits. And last year we had 2,228 students visiting the site for educational programming. So that was great attendance last year as well. We kicked off our work this year with an Environmental Champions Kickoff Day. So we were able to bring some teachers that are very passionate about the environment and our environmental champions in their building to work with Eco Schools and learn more about the platform. And then to collaborate together, and we've created some documents that they're sharing back and forth to support each other's work. So that was a nice opportunity for everyone to get together and then kick off the work for the school year. In terms of next steps, there's a few there. The most recent one that we're going to begin to work on is to work collaboratively in partnership with the Outdoor Learning Steering Committee to promote outdoor learning across the district. So that's new, and we haven't actually had a meeting to discuss that. So the Environment Committee doesn't know that yet, but they will when at our next meeting when we have more information to share with them. So.
And that concludes our report. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, questions, comments? Leo, go ahead.
Sure, of course. So I noticed Killaloe had a platinum certificate. And when I went to look up before, like Eco Schools and how to get platinum, there was some confusion. So I'm just curious what they had to do to become a platinum.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I don't have my computer here in front of me. I left it downstairs. But it would be the number of activities that they were involved in and registered for and recorded. So like some schools might be involved in a lot, but they aren't recording them in Eco Schools. So it's just the number of activities that they would have been involved in throughout the school year and recorded pictures or other documentation that they actually took part in those events.
And the other question I had was, where is it? So it says good on one side paper. I think it'd be good if you did it on both sides of the paper, but I'm just curious what that is.
Well, it just means that they are using the other side of the paper instead of
Okay.
out before they use both sides. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Mike.
Just more of a comment. I really like the way that the direction this file's moving in, the expansion and just the interest that's evolving. I live in Renfrew County, a very rural area, and I think that in some ways we are advantaged in that respect, where maybe in other ways we're disadvantaged. But in this particular, I think that the key component to, the whole education component and enlightening in our environment. So keep going. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it was great work for sure. Nice to see more interest in everything, and certainly the outdoor learning project is going to heighten that interest, there's no doubt. So we'll look forward to hearing more about that as well in the future. So thank you for your report. Okay. Excellent. Speaking of Okay, capital priorities submissions, I believe. Perhaps Superintendent Barnes is going to walk us through that one.
Just a quick update. The report does speak for itself, and there was the attachment with quite a bit of detail with the 2 priorities. So just to recap, every year the ministry does its capital priority intake. They've added this year facility condition with health and safety considerations. Previously, it was only accommodation pressure, school consolidation, which of course there's a moratorium on, and then access to French language schools. So they have opened up the scope a little bit. It was a very tight deadline. The submissions were due October 8th. So we did get 2 priorities in. Priority 1, as you can see, is the Herman Street Public Schools. So we did bring reports to the Board of Trustees in previous years mentioning that Porta Pack was coming to the end of its life. We had some accommodation pressures. We moved some portables over. We moved some 7 and 8s to Valor. So, you know, we've been monitoring the situation over the past couple of years, and we've reached the point where, you know, the 7 8s are gone. It's a K-6 school. The Porta Pack's coming to the end of life. We've got some facility concerns with the Porta Pack and beyond the end of life. And so that priority 1 submission is a permanent classroom addition with improved washroom facilities, and then an additional door to the entrance. And it actually, I didn't include it in the report, but it actually improves fire response because the building would be responded to by 3 walls as opposed to just the 2 previously. So that's our first priority. Our second priority, when I mentioned it the first time when I was here, I thought we were refinishing unfinished classrooms in the basement. But if you've ever done a job at home, you sometimes start with one idea, and as you involve the professionals, it gets changed a little bit. And so that evolved into repurposing some existing classrooms to make use of the courtyard for a 49-spot childcare center, and then an addition of 4+ supporting school staff space being attached. It actually reduces the OTG on the ground capacity, so we have a better utilization rate as a result of that. So that's what that looked like. And again, then just some supporting documentation of why the Pembroke area is, you know, deserving of the childcare spots. The ministry received 182 submissions from 73 school boards. They usually take the winter to measure against the criteria, and we will hear in the spring the results. We've already had a couple of phone calls and meetings with our capital analyst, so we try to, you know, build that relationship. And then her role is, if we are not successful this round, is to work to see what can we do to be more successful in the future. So I just wanted to keep you all up to date on where we were on that.
Questions, comments, wonderings about?
You know, go for it.
Go ahead, Lou.
Do you have like a cost associated with each priority? And would it be like fully funded by the ministry? Or would we have to put in some of our own?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but what we've proposed is fully funded. But that is a great question, because I recall with the Herman daycare, we did throw in some money as a school.
Yeah, same with the daycare at the morgues.
Yes, yeah, but as it stands right now, it's fully funded.
Questions, comments?
Just more of a comment, and that is, I'm really pleased to see that we're at least throwing our hat in the ring, so to speak, when it comes to childcare spaces. I mean, just talking to any young parents, there's a really dramatic need. I'd really like to see it happen, but I know it's not an easy adventure to go down that road. It's very complicated and it could take longer than we would wish, but at least we're getting there. So thank you, because I know it's a big task. Lots of hoops to jump through. Thank you.
I just had one question. So how are we going to manage if we don't get approved? So do we have a contingency backup plan?
At the end of life portable? So yes, so you could replace the portable if you have temporary accommodation funding. And so the ministry is looking at how they have been doing a rolling 3 to 5 year average, sort of like, what have you been spending in the past few years? You know, and just you're funded based on that. That's not working across the province. And so they're actually now asking boards, what do you see yourself spending in the next 1 to 3 years? And so we're going back to those conversations with our capital analyst, because we would have to secure that temporary accommodation funding in order to replace the Porta Pack. Replacing a temporary structure with a temporary structure means you're going to have to deal with it 15 to 20 years down the road. And I would it's not really good use of money, but, so that's our plan B that we're, we would prefer not to go down that road, but we're going to have to do something because it's end of life.
That's good. I'm glad to hear you've got a contingency plan anyway, because that's always the issue, right? Because we never really know. And I might just mention that Director Nemi and Superintendent Barnes did meet with MPP Deneau last week as well, just to give him a bit of a heads up on the submission going in case he has an opportunity to ask a question or plant a seed somewhere along the way. So he is aware of what we're asking for and why. So I think he was quite receptive. And so that was time well spent, I believe, on the parts. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thanks, Jen. That's great. Okay, we're on to the RCDSB annual report for 24-25, and I'll turn it over to you, Director Nemi.
Thank you, Chair. So we are pleased to bring you a draft version of the RCDSB annual report, which summarizes our highlights from the 2024-2025 school year. First, I'd like to commend our communications officer, Jay McWinaugh, who pulled together all of the pieces. There were many contributors to the report, but it's his hard work that brought it all together and made it look so visually appealing, and really, I think, promotes our CDSB in a very positive way. So the senior team is going to share some highlights with the Board of Trustees. So at the beginning, in terms of the overview, you can see references to our strategic plan, and then a message from myself and Chair Boland. And we did include all of the trustees and executive council in here this year. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Smith, who's going to share the good news story on page 11.
Okay, so I'm going to speak to the Killaloe Lions Club Vision Screening Program. This is an exciting story. It really is a highlight of what happens when schools and community partners come together to really make a difference in the lives for our students and families. Jim Homer, a gentleman from the Killaloe Lions Club, had reached out a couple of years ago, really wanting to start this vision screening program in the Renfrew County District School Board. He had heard about it happening in Ottawa and other boards, and he really wanted to see it here for our families. So we worked with Jim to create a vision for this program, and we started at Killaloe Public School, and Principal Jude Kelly worked with us to help design what it could look like and work through ironed out all the kinks with us. So Jim recruited volunteers from the Lions Club in Killaloe, started with that, and then started recruiting volunteers from other area Lions Clubs too. So they formed a little team and began doing vision screening across the district. He worked with a foundation called One Sight. I'm just looking here so I get the exact name of it. One Sight Elsalor Luxottica Foundation. So I'm only going to say the whole thing once, and then I'll say One Sight after that, to obtain the equipment and to go through the process with them. So last year they did screening on all the Madawaska family, and this year they've started expanding the rest of the district. So he said, I'm going to start this thing small and grow it. So that's what he's doing with that team. So just a little bit about the process. It begins with a letter being sent home to families explaining what will happen. They do have the option to opt out should they not want to participate. It is important to know this is a screening and not a full exam. So if something comes up in the screening that could be a concern, then a letter is sent home to the family saying, this has been flagged, and then gives them some next steps. And it suggests that they do go for an optometrist exam, and we give them a list of all of the different area places where they can go. And of course, OHIP does cover that for anyone 19 and under. And then if glasses are required, there's some different supports they have worked out to be able to help families. For any JK or SK student anywhere, there's a program called I See, I Learn, and any participating optometrist will provide free eyewear for any kiddos in that age range. And then for students in grades 1 to 8, they developed another partnership through One Sight, and that's the rest of the name I won't say again. And Community Resource Center in Killaloe as part of that partnership. They send a referral letter saying that they would support the student getting eyewear, and then if the family is able to get to any Pearl Vision Center, then they get free glasses. So that's exciting. And then if none of those things work, then there's also the Lions Club in Killaloe has developed a little
funding program, and they will offer $75 gift cards for families too. So they go to Walmart in Pembroke then, and they're able to use that gift card towards their eyewear.
Nice. A great news story.
Great news story.
I love it.
I'll turn it over to you, Superintendent Crumble.
So I'm going to highlight really a big focus of our Indigenous education team, which is land-based learning. And it's really to deepen our connections to the land, to one another and community through learning, led by elders, knowledge keepers, artists, and Indigenous organizations. Some of the key activities highlighted is plant medicine teachings, water walks, drum making, harvesting, and learning about cycles in nature, all grounded in traditional knowledge. We had a week-long visit from a Cree author and educator, William Buck. He shared teaching of Indigenous star knowledge through immersive planetarium experience, and he blended story, science, and culture. And we also had student leadership, creative expression showcased through reconciliation gardens. And we had our presentation earlier from Cobden that highlighted some of the work in there that was nicely done. And then throughout all this work, you know, we continue to build intercultural understanding and by honoring Indigenous brilliance through authentic land-based learning and experiences. And we really see through all the experience, we see land as a teacher. And that's what we really look at and experience throughout the district. So.
Excellent.
Now we're going to go to Superintendent Poirier, who's sharing of the good news story on page 14.
Thank you. So I'm going to share about the virtual family speaker series. This speaker series was in support of Mental Health Awareness Month. And when you take a look at what the different topics were and the speakers, you can see that it really does link to areas of focus that we've been highlighting, both starting last year and we're continuing into this year. Social media and mental health, executive functions, which many of our schools are investing in learning for their students, supporting attendance by PLEO, which is a parents group, and also the outdoor advantage with Jill Beanstalk. Again, things that we're carrying forward. I think it's important to just recognize that these sessions themselves really do give that great demonstration of the value we put on that connection with our families as being an important part and member of our communities, and that we do want to take as many different approaches as we can to supporting the well-being of all students. So thank you.
And I'm going to speak to what's on page 16, which is the DELF. And so Diplôme d'études en langue française is what it stands for. And you can see the data that's there. So this is the internationally recognized certificate that students have to do an assessment. And the only way that they can do that assessment is if they complete the 4 years of French. It can be done at in any of the pathways, core French, extended French, or French immersion. But they do have to complete up to grade 12 French, and then they're eligible to complete this assessment. And you can see over the past 4 years, we've had 375 students across the district complete the DELF. And you can see the breakdown by level. And then you can see the results over time and also by the aggregate. So we've had 339 students successfully complete one of the levels in the DELF out of this 375. So 90% of our students have been successful. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Nickel, who's going to highlight the story on page 17.
Thank you. So just celebrating and highlighting the robotics communities that are happening at both ADHS and Mackenzie. As an aside, ADHS has been a part of the robotics competitions through FIRST for 17 years, and we were just in a meeting downstairs, and the facilitator for it was saying that they're actually the longest standing member in Eastern Ontario for this. And Mackenzie is in its 3rd year for it. And just in that first paragraph where it speaks about FIRST Robotics, it's actually it's the world's largest youth robotic community, standing for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. Secretary speaks about 6 weeks. So in October, they have to make a commitment to the FIRST organization to say that we want to participate. And then the information comes to them in terms of what's going to be involved in the competition in January. And they have between January to March to actually make it. and prepare for it. So it's a quick turnaround for that. In terms of this current school year, our umpire is going to be at, and actually both competitions that Mackenzie and ADHS are going to be at respectively are happening during March break. One's at the beginning of March break and the other's at the end. So at the beginning of March break, ADHS is going to be at Durham College. And at the end of March break, Mackenzie is going to be at Nipissing competing as well. In addition, the ADHS is going to host a regional first Lego competition. So there's first robotics, which is for the older kids, and first Lego is for the younger kids. So having that as well. And a number of reasons for doing it, but obviously one of the things that we recognize as an importance for these types of initiatives is it's certainly we know it's a priority for us based on student achievement, our student achievement plans that we want STEM initiatives. We know actually also having a meeting with the organizer from First Robotics, as well as both ADHS and Mackenzie, literally just minutes before this committee started. The whole focus on that was the ability to try and retain the programs that exist, but also try and grow it across our district too, and recognizing that this type of initiative has great pathways for our students.
We're going to turn over to Superintendent Marks. She's going to start on page 21.
Yes, so the technology, education, equipment, management and planning. So the secondary tech ed equipment, we've been bringing you up to updates over the past year. So really excited to share that, making that shift of leaning on existing workflows and processes that we use on sort of the business side and maintaining our building facilities and all of the equipment. Seeing its success there, shifting that into the classroom to clear the backlog, build the asset management system, allow ourselves to be in a position to sort of plan towards the future, and then create an opportunity to build the relationships with the folks in the schools and the program people so that we can really be proactive in designing what we want those classrooms to look like, so that when we need to replace significant equipment like the pictures you see there, that $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 worth of equipment, each one of those pieces. So repair and maintenance is part of it, but also managing going forward. We have to have some plans in place. So really excited to have that project underway.
And are you going to share capital?
Yeah, that's okay. I remember Bill was really excited. He was the centerfold. So
You got 2 pages.
he got 2 pages of pictures. So very excited about that. And I think it's a nice cross section of the work that happens across the district, because I know when the plan is made, we look to see what types of work is being done. The roofs and the HVAC might look a little boring, but it really works to keep the environments that the students and staff learn in to be comfortable. The gym floors, that's an example of what we're using across the district as we start to replace them. They're good for the kids. They've got a bit of cushion and we don't have to be refinishing the wood all of the time. The outdoor track at Madawaska is nice to see. The Eganville and District Public School cultural space, which we're all really anxious to be finished, and it's so close. So I'm excited. We'll be having everybody out there shortly. And then some accessibility projects. And then works, you can see then at Champlain, to improve that traffic flow. And then the McNabb Public School classroom update is, just sort of that signature work that our tradespeople do. When you see those classrooms redone, they all look the same, and we try to do a smattering across the district. So it's a nice example of the different types of work that has been done across the district.
Thank you. And lastly, I will give a brief highlight about the section called Measuring Our Progress. So as it's been mentioned, this year it's been very late in terms of us receiving EQAO results for last school year. And so you can see blanks in the charts because we're waiting for those results to be received. And then that's why I said this was a draft document, because we will update the document once we receive those results. You can only see 2 years worth of data right now, so it's a little bit hard to sort of see the data over time. And you can see that we did have a pretty significant drop from the year 2023 to 2024. We are quite hopeful that the 2025 results are going to be improved, mainly because we did increase the level of focus on, I would say, on just sort of it had been paused during COVID and then brought back in a digital form. And there was some learning to do around how to help students feel prepared. So, and that was a priority for last year. So we are anxious to see the results. And the second page of results is the secondary EQAO assessment, so grade 9 math and also the OSSLT. And we can see historically that we have been very close to the provincial average for the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test, which is the graduation requirement. And then finally, in May, every year we do bring you a report related to credit accumulation and graduation rates, which is an aspect of our student achievement plan. And so this shows our graduate 4-year and 5-year graduation rates for the last 5 cohorts. And so a cohort or grad rate is the year that the school year that the students entered grade 9. And so, and then that shows the percentage of that cohort that graduated after 4 years. And then the total that graduated after our 5-year grad rate includes students who graduated after 4 years and 5 years combined. And so we do not yet have the 5-year grad rate because that'll be released this upcoming spring for that last cohort. Okay, and that summarizes the annual report and what we are. And so we are about a month ahead of schedule with this report. And that's because we wanted to sort of get this taken care of so that we could focus on the development of the new strategic plan. And so what we are going to do is put a little blurb about the missing EQAO results, and we are going to post it on our website. Okay, because we don't know when those results will be posted. So we're just going to put a little disclaimer saying that those will be added once we receive the results. But in the meantime, we will share this out. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Jody, go ahead.
I just had one question about the DELF and one question about robotics. So for DELF, when I'm looking at the numbers, it looks like this is I didn't do very well in statistics, so you can tell me if I'm wrong. But it looks like between 2021 and 2025, the students have been moving from B2 over to A2. Is there a reason why they're choosing like A2, I think is the less sophisticated test, I think, and B2 is more. So why do we think that change has happened over the last 4 years?
Yeah, it's a really good question. What I would say is that it really depends on the background of each individual student. And so very good question though. And I think that what we could do is probably bring back the principal of curriculum to respond in more detail. But we have, because the numbers are so small for B2, for example, there was a large number in 23-24. But aside from that, those numbers have been historically quite low. And what I have been told is that in this board, the majority of the students who get assessed at B2 somewhere along the way had French as a first language experience, whether in the home or in school. So either maybe they're coming from a Francophone family, or maybe they studied in a French first language school in elementary and then switched to our school board for secondary. That's what I've been told. But I don't have the individual, the data at a more granular level. But it is a really good question because we want students, ideally, we would want to see students being assessed into B level if they are coming out of French immersion. If they're coming out of core French, I would say A2 is appropriate. But students coming out of French immersion, really, we want to see them being assessed at the B1 or B2 level. And, I think the total of students being assessed in B1 is still pretty high. It's the highest number, but we have a significant number in A2. But that could be because they're in core. So I just don't have that level of detail, but we certainly could bring that back in a more detailed report this year.
It would be nice to track over the years as immersion continues to be implemented to see if that changes and maybe as a milestone for the teachers. For the robotics, I recall talking about this actually in our parent teacher, and we had heard about the robotics. And I know that Mackenzie, or I don't know, I heard that Mackenzie was quite underfunded. Some people showed up in I don't know if Principal Robillard remembered, but I think some people showed up in a bus, and Mackenzie came with kind of popsicle sticks. And so I think there was some question about fundraising, sponsorship, and things like that, because of course Deep River would have a lot of people who'd be interested in fundraising and things like that. So maybe if that could be clarified, because I think it's a really neat program, and I think being supported financially does help success, particularly in something like robotics.
So I'll comment first, and I'll allow Superintendent Nickel to add. And so what I would say is, yes, some long-standing teams across Canada have some very significant corporate sponsorships that are backing their programs. Certainly an option for our robotics teams to explore as well. I know, for example, having met with the ADHS team, they have specific students on their team that's their job. Some of them do the robotics work, some of them do the business side of the robotics team, and they have sought sponsorships from some corporations. I know I can't think of the name of the corporation, but I know they're based out of Ottawa or Canada, for example. So that certainly is an option. And perhaps, and I know that the ADHS team was mentoring the Mackenzie team. And so I would imagine that they've shared that aspect of the work as well. But it's definitely an option to seek corporate sponsorships. That's pretty much how a lot of the teams across Canada are supported, because there are aspects to this type of extracurricular that are quite expensive. So there are a lot of corporate, like there are a lot of companies that have connections to this world, right? Like coding, robotics. So they want to sponsor teams to develop, a workforce that has that skill set. Yeah.
It's just to add to that, even just the title itself, when it says empowering community, it requires the community to support. And certainly the Mackenzie School has been doing a great job of trying to get community involvement. In fact, as I mentioned, the meeting started at 3 and well, actually it started at 2, but it went right till 4 o'clock. I had to leave, but and it was just having both of those schools there with the person from First, who has a broad level of experience in terms of working with different boards across Ontario, different sizes of boards as well. So that was incredibly helpful. But what was also helpful, besides having that person, was having ADHS, for 17 years. The remark given from ADHS to Mackenzie was, "You're doing a great job. It takes years. In order to get that corporate sponsorship, it took him, he was saying, about 5 or 6 years in order to do that, because it's one thing to just go and ask. It's another thing to repeatedly and to make sure that over time, that in this case, the corporations would say, oh, this is something that's going to be perennial and not just something that's going to be done, just as a one-off, so to speak, or an annual. So that was another key point as well. But there were a number of strategies that was also provided by First that we think it could help us move forward as well. So there's a number of to-dos for both schools, but there's some of the to-dos that are with me right now that I have to look into. Yeah. But thank you though. You're absolutely right.
Liam, you had a question?
Yeah, I just think it's very well done. Last year, I was lucky enough to do the family virtual speaker series, for the 4 in May. So I'm looking forward to the this one this coming May, the speakers for those. So, yeah, it's very well done.
It's to Jenny's team. I'm just the reporter.
Yeah.
She's great. Great at reporting, right? Yes. So is there a plan to do that again next year, I guess, this coming year?
Well, it's something that we have to look at. Last year, we did receive specific funding from the Ministry of Education for parental engagement in the area of mental health specifically. And we did not receive that this year. So we have to look into what makes sense. I mean, we did hope that the number of participants would be higher than it was. We didn't reach a really wide audience, what that means. So I think we need to take a step and think about, are there other things that we need to consider? And that's the same in other districts when we talk to them too about similar endeavors, but we did not receive the same funding that funded that series last year.
Anything else? Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Just on a positive, it's just nice to see this picture of Highview Public School with accessibility ramps. I know with SEAC, we're talking about that. It keeps coming up, and just nice to see that it's happening, sometimes slowly. I think last year was ADHS. There was something done there. This year it's Highview, just a positive. Also Champlain Discovery Public School drop off and pickup zone. I saw them frantically because I live in the neighborhood working last minute. I shook my head 2 weeks before they finished and I went, I don't know if this is going to get done, but when the buses rolled in, but it did get done. But if you speak to the walkers, they still have some issues and some concerns. So I just hope that at some point does get addressed. It's not a simple solution, and it could be. I think I've sort of had that bounded about in the community with parents, and I mean, I think they feel as long as it's being looked at and looked into, maybe both with city and with our district, but could be a long-term, a large ticket item.
No, I appreciate that, Mike, and we are. It's unfortunate. When it came to us, we were thinking transportation, and then once the transportation was done, we thought, oh, the walkers. And so we have also had some feedback presented. So we've got a sidewalk in mind, but we have to work in collaboration with the city. And we are doing that. So yeah.
That's good, because if people come up to me,
You can let them
I can let them know that.
Yep.
I sort of reassure them that something like that might be happening behind the scenes, because the quote I was given that really stuck was, yes, it's sort of really dealt with the problem when it comes to the transportation when you're in a vehicle, but it really hasn't dealt with the other issue. And I just said, well, I'll bring it up, but you guys are being proactive and I'll give them that feedback. Thank you.
Great, okay. Seeing no other questions or comments, just a great job. It looks terrific. I love the photos. They certainly capture what's happening in our board and so many great news stories, to be honest. We're very lucky, and thank you all for all your hard work over the last year. It looks terrific. Lots to be proud of.
And it's nice to see Grace.
Yeah, Grace.
That was really nice to see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. And so, yeah, I'm glad to hear you're going to post it anyway. It might as well be posted even without EQAO, where the whole province is in the same boat. So might as well get that done. And yeah, it looks terrific. Thank you so much for all the work on that. Okay, we do have one other quick item that we added to the agenda, and I'll turn it over to Chair Boland to talk a little bit about committee planning and structures coming up, because we're into November already.
Yeah, so at the board meeting, so that's when we have the elections for chair and vice chair, also the committees. And what was done a number of years ago is that we would send out a little email with a list of committees that you would like to sit on. And, you know, put a little tick marker 1, 2, 3 next to what you'd like to sit on. We'll have a return date to have them sent back to Susan and myself, and then we'll try and compile, you know, those committees, and then, you know, just announce them then on that Thursday, or that Tuesday, sorry, of after the board meeting. And then, so for the most part, all you would be voting for would be the chair and vice chair that day. So. Yeah, if you have any questions on that. So Susan said she already has a template, she'll send that out. And then we'll ask her a return date and then have it back to us, and Susan and I will just go through it and just slot everybody in. But you should be able to see like who puts, you know, their name where. So again, it's just to try and make it a little simpler to fill in the committees and fill in gaps.
Yeah, so that will go out for sure. And I mean, if you're happy being on the committee you're on, then you can identify and we can carry on, but we'll give you that opportunity.
The only committees I won't be on there would be like the SAL and OPS, because they're have a different time frame.
They're already done. That's exactly right. And I was reminded that in our board report, I just have to go back for a little bit. There is a recommendation with the annual report, and I did miss that recommendation. And I don't have it in front of me, but I'm assuming it's the Board of Trustees receive this report. And so could I have a motion? Actually, I'll have if I can have a motion to that extent. So Leo, would you do that, please? So you're making a motion
that the Renfrew County District School Board received the RCDSB annual report for 2024-25.
Perfect. And do I have a seconder? Trustee Kaiser, thank you. Any discussions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Excellent. Thank you very much. And my apologies for missing that recommendation. Okay, anything else for the good of the meeting? It looks like we're a wrap up, I think. Thank you to trustee Doherty and student trustee Dick for being online. I hope we didn't forget you were there. It's always a challenge to remind ourselves to take a peek. And other than that, I think we'll declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.